Nowadays, for regular people, the cops are becoming such an unpredictable force. They are people of authority that somehow some of us fear because of the stereotyping that most of them are bad apples. But what is it exactly about them that makes us fear them and run in the other direction instead of looking up to them and seeking their help? Before we continue, please take some time to subscribe to Dailydose, like, and share this video with your friends. Not all police are corrupt and have taken for granted the power of authority they hold. A good part of the police community is silent heroes. Many of us may not know it, but they are there. Take, for example, the hero of this story, State Trooper Chad Savannah. His intentions were pure when he approached a little girl, Brooke, only this time, he did not expect the little girl to do what she did. It is a no-brainer that children always have a knack for sweets. It seems as if wherever they go, all they can think about is how to satisfy that craving. And Brooke was no exception to this. She had been thinking about donut holes the entire day. And so she reckoned that with the little money she had on her, it may be enough to buy some. It was late in August of 2017 at that time, and so with the little money she had, she decided she was going to go to Sheetz gas station between Meridian Road and Route 68. It was close to where she lived, so she got her mom to drive her to the store. However, when she got there, she did not expect things to happen the way they did. Brooke was born to loving parents, Beth and Dave Yost. She was the middle child and had an older and younger sister named Holly and Riley. They were all treated equally with no type of special treatment. As parents who only want the best for their children, they were conditioned to always think of what was right, not just for them, but for everyone else. Now, people might think that instilling this would be too early for kids to realize. But Brooke's parents believed that they should start them young to mold responsible adults and in the future, create a better environment and make a difference, even if it's just something as little as paying it forward in their little way. Brooke went inside the shop and got herself a box of donut holes. She knew she had to endure another few minutes until she could finally eat them. Her mouth was beginning to water as she kept staring at the food. She had been imagining them all day, and she was going to share them with her little sister when she got home. A thought even crossed her mind that she was better off eating at least one of the donuts to get her fix of the sweet dough. But then she remembered what her parents always reminded her. It was bad manners to eat something that wasn't yours, and technically her not paying for the donuts yet meant that the food wasn't hers. When she was nearing the counter, she did not realize it at first, but when it was her turn to pay, that's when she realized something embarrassing. She reached into her pocket and counted the change she had with her, but unfortunately, she did not have enough money on her. Brooke was too excited before leaving the house to even check if she had enough money. But even if she did not know how much it was going to cost her. She looked around, praying that somehow her mom would show up. But to no avail, her mom was not there. On any other day, this would not have been an issue, but this time was different because she went into the shop alone. She looked back and forth to the cashier who was patiently waiting for her to settle her payment. She went into a panic when she realized that the change she brought with her was not enough to pay for the donuts she wanted so much. She had no phone to call her mother either. Meanwhile, her mother was inside the car in the parking lot just waiting for her. She knew she could not run to her and ask for money. People were waiting in line and waiting for her to finish. And not only that, there was a police officer behind her. She was afraid that she was going to get into trouble. She had not expected that a cop was standing right behind her. She now went into a full-blown panic, running her eyes from the cashier to the line behind and the windows of the shop. I was standing in line and I didn't have enough money and I'm like frozen, she told the Butler Eagle during an interview in December 2017. I didn't know what to do, she said. She recalls the cashier looking at her with worried and questioning eyes. She felt like she wanted to disappear from the world as the people started asking her what was wrong. It was an embarrassing experience, coupled with an officer who was about to step in for her. Officer Chad Savannah has been on the Pennsylvania State Force for quite some time already, and he can immediately sense anything that may be off. And in that time, he had already sensed something about the girl standing in line in front of him. But he could also sense her apprehension towards him. Watching the girl fidget and look back and forth at the window and the people inside the shop, his senses somehow told him that he needed to step up. The girl was nervous and troubled, but he did not know how to help her because she might recoil or run away from him. So he needed a plan ASAP. As soon as he realized the gravity of the situation, Officer Savannah thought of a plan to help the little girl. He was trying to think through the best way to approach the little girl so she wouldn't get any more scared of him or rattled by the whole scene unfolding before him. The first thing he tried to deal with was the people waiting in line after him. They did not want them to make a fuss about how the girl was holding up the line and assured the others that he would take care of the little girl. But how will he begin to approach her? Officer Savannah thought about looking for the little girl's mother to talk to her and tell her about the whole situation inside the shop. He even thought about asking her directly to go inside and pay for the donuts, but that just wasn't the option. He knew that by doing this, the little girl might get a little bit more embarrassed, seeing as how many people were looking. So no, that was not the best way to go about it. He knew he had to act fast. And so he cleared his throat and asked the cashier what was going on. The little girl looked at him with pleading eyes, and then he put his negotiation skills to good use. He was not about to disappoint the little girl in front of him. According to an interview with KDKA, Officer Savannah said, "I asked the clerk if she'd put the bill with my stuff and I would take care of it." The cashier then agreed to do so and slowly asked the little girl if she could pass her the box of donuts so she could run it through. Brooke was a little bit hesitant and also now confused about the whole situation. But then Officer Savannah signaled to the cashier that it was okay and that she should be a little more understanding of the little girl. Brooke handed the box to the cashier and looked back at him. He smiled at her and half expected her to say a little thank you after the cashier gave her the box of donuts back. But then, to everyone's surprise, she ran out of the store. In Brooke's defense, she was feeling a lot of pressure from the fact that people were staring at her, and she already felt embarrassed because everybody knew she did not have enough money to pay for the item she wanted, and that alone made her feel very conscious that she just run out as soon as she grabbed the box. "I paid for the donuts and she ran out. It was almost like she'd robbed the place. It was that quick," says Officer Savannah. But while Brooke was sprinting to her mother's car, she did realize a few things that she might have missed out on when she was busy hiding away and running from the people at the store. When Brooke hopped inside the car, she was beginning to regret that she was not able to hand what money she had to the officer who kindly paid for her donuts. After all, this was not something that her mother taught her. She had not even thanked him for doing what he did, even though he did not know her. This made her feel so sad, and she knew she had to tell her mother about what happened. So, on their way home, she told her all about it, including the kind officer who helped her pay for the donuts. Brooke's mother felt sad for her daughter, but she knew that her feelings were valid, so she encouraged her, and eventually Brooke decided on what she wanted to do. Back at the store, Officer Savannah just shook his head and smiled because he too was left speechless after what happened. He paid for the items, including Brooke's, and went back to his duties. But he could not forget about the little girl at the store. There was just something about her that made an impression on him. Brooke, on the other hand, had already made up her mind. She did not tell her mother right away about what she planned on doing. She wanted to let the officer know that she was grateful for what he did and that she wanted to pay him back for the donuts. So what better way to deliver this message than through a letter? After Brooke wrote her letter, she enlisted the help of her mother to deliver the letter to the police station. Shortly after, the patrol commander was the one to receive it, and he was curious to see what was inside, because obviously it had a child's handwriting on the front of the envelope. The note said, "My name is Brooke and I'm 9 years old. I was at Sheetz and didn't have enough money. A nice police officer behind me kindly paid for my item. I thanked him but felt bad because I didn't offer him the money I had." The patrol commander was deeply moved by this. The patrol commander had not even finished reading the letter when he inspected the contents of the envelope. Inside, he saw another piece of paper, and so he wondered what it was. He continued reading, and it said, "So I am donating this money. I want to thank this officer again." It wasn't long after that Lieutenant Dan Hines gathered all of the officers on duty to let them know what he just received. He later shares to KDKA, "A lot of us are parents. We hope that our children have these traits and characteristics," and he showed everyone the letter, including Officer Savannah. All of the cops on duty were deeply moved by the letter as well. They could not believe that it came from someone as young as Brooke, and they knew they had to do something about it. So they all agreed that they were going to pay it forward. The police officers in attendance at that meeting were in agreement that they needed to do something nice for the little girl who was conscious enough to acknowledge that she was not able to thank the officer who helped her properly. She donated that money too, so that only meant she was a selfless child. They then raised $50 for Brooke and got her a Toys R Us voucher so she could buy any toy that she wanted. Once everything was ready, they headed to her address and met with her. They spoke for a bit before they gave her their surprise and told her to buy herself something nice, but Brooke had other plans. Because she was a family-oriented child, she immediately planned to spend the $50 she got by treating her family to a nice meal. However, that was about it. The officers had expected that she would use the voucher so she could buy the toys she liked, since the family had expressed that they were not able to buy her many toys growing up. It had been a few weeks since that incident happened, and Brooke and her family went on with life as usual, but now bearing the wisdom and gratefulness for the officers and their good deed. Until one day, fate was not yet done, bringing in more blessings to Brooke and her family. Brooke's mother has been making ends meet and is tirelessly working as a waitress at a local restaurant. One day, while she was on the job, she spotted a familiar man. It dawned on her that it was Lieutenant Hines with his family, and because she had not properly thanked him before, she walked over to the cop and greeted him and his family. According to Lieutenant Hines, in an interview he did with the Butler Eagle, he shared, she said, "Lieutenant Hines, I'm Brooke's mother." With just the mention of Brooke's name, his face lit up and he smiled at her. Before anything else, he wanted to let her know that she had done an amazing job raising Brooke the way she did and that she should be proud. Upon further conversation with Brooke's mother, Beth, the lieutenant learned of the unfortunate situation that the family is suffering from. You would not even think they were having financial difficulties because they were such a happy family and they always smiled a lot. Beth said that she and her husband were working double shifts just to make ends meet and make sure the kids were comfortable growing up. This is probably why their traits were also such a big influence on their children, coupled with the fact that they made sure to always remind them to be kind and mind their manners. When Lieutenant Hines heard of this, he invited the family to drop by the station for a visit. Lieutenant Hines immediately informed the rest of his team the next morning about how he had met up by chance with Brooke's mother at a restaurant. Together with Commanding Officer Steve Ignataz, KDKA was able to cover their short conference before the arrival of Brooke and her family at the station. Ignataz is heard saying, "We need to do something nice for this young lady." And so, they did just that. The cops, especially Officer Savannah, toured her around the police station and showed her the different facilities inside the station. However, the tour was not the only thing they had in mind for the family that day. They made sure that Brooke was having the time of her life while they were showing her around the station. Other police officers would greet her and talk to her as if she were part of the team. They even made Brooke sit in one of their patrol cars as well. After the tour they gave, they gathered the family into one room and there they offered to her more surprises for Brooke. They put the gifts on the table for her, but they made one thing clear to Brooke. Because the last time she was given a gift card to buy herself some toys, she had not bought anything for herself. The officers made her promise to keep what they were about.